know when you see the screen. I hope my screen is visible to everyone, right? Okay, so shall we start?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, a basic brief introduction for those who don't know me. My name is Mrinmai Sharma, and I have been working in the IT industry for like 4 to 5 years now, and I have been working with Power
Can we
BI for
see you,
around 3 years.
if you don't mind?
Sure. I'm not sure whether my camera is that good. Let me check. I hope it should be
Hi,
visible
yeah,
now.
I can see you
Yeah.
now.
Hi. Yeah, so basically what I was saying, like I have been working with Power BI and data analyst and data analytics, artificial intelligence for around 3 years now. So basically, the whatever I will be showing you today, first I will show you what you can achieve with Power BI, and like then I will show you or explain what exactly is Power BI or what to expect from this session, and then we will go on a hands-on session, which will be for about 1 hour or so, and that will be very basic so that you have the idea or the knowledge to get started. From there you can build on the knowledge. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing that we would like to know is what is Power BI exactly, right? It's a buzzword, like everyone is talking about it, and everyone wants to know what is Power BI. Everyone is working on it. The first thing that you need to know is it's very simple. It's an interactive reporting platform. That's it. It's interactive by means like when you build reports, the users to which you are sharing the reports, it's not just a static report with images and graphs. Those graphs, images, and the visuals that you see on a Power BI report, they are interactive. They each of the visuals, they talk to each other. So we will see how it works. The next thing is why choose Power BI. The first thing is like it's very free. It's completely free. You only need to pay for it when you are trying to share one report throughout the web, and for that you need to pay for the collaboration and the Power BI service mode, which is the online cloud version of it. But other than that, if you want to learn Power BI, if you want to build Power BI, if you want to do some advanced stuff, you really don't need to pay a single penny. So the next thing is it's very simple. So you like most of the visualization tools, business analytics tools, they involve some level of coding involved in it, or maybe some additional configuration that you need to make to your data set so that you can build reports on it. Okay. So but in Power BI it's not that. Even if you don't know a single line of coding, or you have never coded in your life, you can build very beautiful and very creative reports in Power BI. So that's one thing that's again pushes the users towards Power BI. The next thing is, as I already said, no coding involved. So these are the buzzwords like there's that attracts users. But if you talk about the technical stuff, so more than like 95% of the Fortune 500 companies, they rely on Power BI heavily. So the again, if the big companies or the big players are going towards Power BI, which means it creates a demand for people who knows how to create Power BI, and again creates a demand for highly skilled people in data field. And since it is easy, most people find it easy to like get a job if they have some basic knowledge with Power BI, and they can create just enough just enough of a good report. So that's one thing. Apart from that, it's widely available throughout the world. It's available more than in more than like 44 to I think it's 50 around right now, more than around 50 languages. And it's available as a offline version and as a cloud version. So you can, if you create a report on your system and you share it to your users, if you are using the complete Power BI package, users can view it on their laptops, tablets, even in their smartphones. So that's another good thing. Next thing is to talk about the numbers. Recently, by Gartner, that ranks all the technology players. For the business analytics and BI platform, Power BI has been the leader for around like a decade now. And again, for 2021, it's again the leader. Tableau, Google Analytics, and all of these things are there. But Microsoft Power BI is still the leader. So next thing is with Power BI, what you can do is you can handle a wide variety of data sources. Okay. and you can transform your data. It's not about just building your reports. You can perform data analysis on it if you have a data which is not properly formatted, or maybe it is having some outliers, or maybe it's not uh, given to you in a proper format that you need. You can actually transform your data and you can like do magic in it. Okay, I will show you what it is. Next thing is you can model your data. You can create relationships and proper data modeling that we talk about in the data field. You can do that within the Power BI. You don't need anything else to do it. And again, for that also, you don't need any don't need to write a single line of code. You can do it with a simple drag and drop interface. Next thing is, yeah, so once you have your data, you can build reports, and that reports can be shared across the organization or your friends and family, wherever you are trying to share it. Okay, so these are like just a overview of the data sources that Power BI supports. It's more than this right now, but it's just an overview. And so let's get started. So before we get started with the hands-on experience, let me show you one of the reports that I created just for this session. Because one thing you need to know about data is, when we work with data, it's mostly we are working with confidential information, or within that information cannot go outside your organization. Mostly it's that scenario. So that's why I created a report that is specifically for today's session. So the numbers or the data that you are seeing is actual data, but it's shared by the government of Barcelona, and it's a data for 2017. I got it from kaggle.com. You can go to the website and you can get amazing data sets from there. And there is even a data set for Game of Thrones if you are a fan. So you can play around with it. You can create a report for Game of Thrones if you want. Just an heads up. So let's get started with this report. So let me show you what we can do with it. Let me go to full screen mode. Okay, so this is the report that we created here. So if you see, this is an overview of the city. And the first thing that you see is like, what is the population for 2017, and what is the like gender ratio here, and how much was the immigration, how much was the immigration, and how many districts are there, how many neighborhoods are there, life expectancy ratio, and deaths and births. Then we have the transportation. So these are different transportation modes. So if you click on the maybe underground, if you see click on underground, you can see that my map here has been filtered for all the underground stations, and we can see 373 stations are there. Now if I click on cableway, I can see only like there are 5 cableway stations, so, and they are highlighted over here. So this is all interactive. So I talked about like interactive reporting platform, right? So this is what interactive look like. Even though I have created the report, the user will see this, and user can actually filter around and work with the data right here. So let's go hop into the like, real dashboard of this. So if I click on this, it takes me to this full dashboard. So the first thing is the population, and this is distributed among all the districts, and we can see that example. I think I sorry for the pronunciation. So this particular district has the highest population, right? And about the interaction, again, these visuals are interactive. So if I click on this particular district, my whole report gets filtered accordingly. So if you see the uh, distribution of male and female throughout the population is for this particular district has been distributed here. And then what else I can do? I can actually filter this report according to age group. So I can see like how many people are there for 35 to 39. So this is the age group. So I can filter it. I can filter throughout my district names. So if I click on this, I can only see the district here, and I can see the population. So again, if I want to see the migration details, I can see it here. Again, this is interactive. So whole report is interactive. Now, if I go to the transportation, I can see like the complete transportation trend, like how many accidents happened in 2017, and this is the distribution among the days are. So if you see, the maximum accidents occurred around the afternoon period, which is like 13 around 1 p.m. to 15. I mean, which is 3 p.m. 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. That was the maximum most accidents that occurred in this period. Then if you see, like, this is the distribution of accidents where it happened. So if you filter this for, let's say I want to filter it for maybe for June maybe. Okay, so June 2017, I can see that the maximum accidents occurred around this region. So this is very interesting, and you can zoom in and you can see what particular location it was. So so this is how we can create. Now let's go back into the home, and so this is all about this report, right? So I now you can see like what level of report you can actually reporting you can achieve with Power BI. Now let's hop into our demonstration or maybe the hands-on experience, where we will see we will take a very simplistic data set, and it's a data set about movies, and I've taken it from IMDb. We will be creating a report for movies, and it is a very simple data set, and we will work through each and every step that is involved for creating a report in Power BI. Cool. Till here, I hope everyone is with me. I hope I'm not boring everyone, right? Okay.
All cool, all cool. That's amazing. The board, the dashboard which you've made.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's really nice.
Yeah. So there's another cool feature, but I will keep it for the next like after we are done with the demonstration. So let's go into the demonstration now. Okay. So yeah, so this was the report that you just saw, and the data was like this. So it has a lot of files. Again, this is simple, but actual data that we work with is a very big set of data set. We can work with big data as well, and I think there is a session for big data as well in GIIC. So you will, when you go to see that, watch that session, you will understand
Wow,
what
it's
I'm
gonna
talking about.
take that.
So next thing is like you saw the some of the image background images, right? So that's nothing specific, like it's very simple. I have an image, I have added to the background, so that's how it worked. And then I have the data set which I imported into the report, and then I created the report, right? So now let's try to do this with another data set. Okay, so we have a data set, it's for movies, and it's basically all the movie titles that is available in IMDb for a specific time period. So I think it's from 2014 to 2017, I guess. So if you see this, we have this data set here, right? And look, just looking at this Excel file, you can see like we cannot make out any meaning out of it, right? So it's just data. But there is a lot of information in it, but we cannot see the information. So that's where our reporting and visualization comes in place. So the reporting and the visualization, why it is so popular, why people want reports, not just data, is because they want to get meaning out of their data. They want to make sense of the data. That's why they need to build reports. Okay, and that is why how easy Power BI has made making reports. It's getting popular. Okay, so let's see. It's not very clean here. It's like we have a lot of values here, lots of text, lots of numbers. Let's try to make sense of it. Okay, let's close this for now. Now let's create a report. So I will go into my Power BI. Okay, so this is my Power BI desktop. If you have installed, you will have a similar icon there. So first it will load. So when you have installed, the first load might take a few extra minutes. So just wait for that. And depending on your system configuration, it might take more also. Okay, so the first thing that you see is Power BI asks like, what do you want to do? So if you have already created a report before, or if you have a report which has been shared to you, you can open that. Or what you can do is you can watch some tutorials or get how to get started with it. There's a complete tutorial and blog available for that. All the links are here. Or if you have a data set, you can directly connect to it. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are not going to click on get data right now, because you can go to the get data part again. But I will show you the interface that you get when you open Power BI for the first time. So when you open Power BI, this is the blank report. It's not even a report. It's just the interface of Power BI desktop, and you have all the tools available here. So then the first thing that you need to look is this get data part. Okay, so if you click on this get data and then click on more, you can see all the data sources that Power BI supports. So it will take some time to load. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So if you can see, like we have all the data sources distributed among different categories. So if we have file data sources, we have databases, we have Power Platform. Power Platform is again a Microsoft product. Azure is there, and then online services, and then we have other. Okay, so when you go to other, we have like all the different data sources that Power BI supports. The highlights will be Spark, Hadoop. These are mainly used for big data, and then you can get data from the website also. So if you have a website, maybe a stock dashboard, let's say most people, the stockbrokers, they follow a particular website. It's called the stock website. And if you open a website, all the stock related websites will have a tabular data in it. They will show which particular stock is going up, which is going down. So mostly what you can do is you can just put the link of that website here, and Power BI will try to extract the data from there. And once it extracts, you can select you can just pick whatever you need, and after you have the data, you can create the reports. Okay, so in our case, it's a file. So I'm just going to click on file and then click on Excel. Okay, so when you click on Excel, it will ask where is your Excel. Okay, so in my case, it's in my D drive. Then I think it's in Power BI. Yeah, GIIC, then IMDb movies, and this is the file, right? So let's open it. Yeah, so since I have opened an Excel file, it gives me an option of two things. One is a sheet, one is a table. So a table will come when inside an Excel. For those who have worked with Excel, they will know you can actually format your data into a table. You can tell the Excel that this is data needs to be formatted as a specific table. So Excel knows that the data that you have is a particular table, and it has a name, table 3, and that is present inside a sheet called sheet 1. Okay, so inside a sheet you can have multiple tables, and inside a Excel file you can have multiple sheets. So you get the idea, right? So if I select a sheet, what it will do is it will try to import all the tables that is there. In our case, it's the same, because in one sheet we have only one table, so it's the same result. So if you see, it's the same data. If I click on the table, you can see that it's also the same data. Okay, so I'm gonna click on the table, just check it, and then click on load. Okay, so if I click on load, Power BI will load it. Okay, so it is trying to create a connection to the Excel file, then it's bringing the data into your report. So it's not like your report will be continuously connected with your Excel file. It will copy the data from there, and it will load it into your Power BI. So that's again one of the features. There is another version where way of connecting to data sources. You can directly connect to a data source, and it will not copy the data. It will just connect to it, and if any changes are made to that particular data source, your Power BI report will reflect it. So that's called a live connector report. So the one that we are working on right now is an import model. Why? Just as the name suggests, you are importing the data into your report. Okay. So if you see, when I import a report data, it's simply asking me build visuals, just drag and drop whatever you want. Okay. So when I loaded the data, so if you see, the table 3 is available here, and all the columns are here. Okay. So if you see, there is a lot of things going on here. Like first thing is the name of the table, it's table 3. I don't want that name. I need to modify that. I also don't like these names of the columns. I need to modify that. Okay. So the first thing that you need to do is, when you have loaded your data, right, you had one option. So I will show you again. Let's load it, try to load it again. So I clicked on load, right? So there is another button next to the load. It's transform data. Can you see this? Just let me know if I'm going fast or if you are having trouble like following along.
Yeah, I think everything's going well.
Okay, so I hope everyone is able to load the data. And again, like if you are not able to access the data set, just let me know. Okay, cool. So if I click on this table now, so I have load and transform data. So when you click on load, it loads the complete data. But if you click on transform data, what it does is it will give you an option to modify the data before loading into your report. So that's a very important thing. Okay. So first thing is like you can click in while importing your data, just click on transform data, then also you can reach there. Since I have loaded the data already, what I can do is I can go to transform here. On the home tab you have transform data, and then you can click on transform data here. Okay, so when you click on that, it opens something called as a Power Query editor. Okay, this is very similar to an Excel editor. So in Excel also you will have a similar interface like this. So for those who have been working with Excel for a long time and they do some kind of analysis on Excel, it will be very easy for them. Okay, but others, don't worry, it's very simple. So if you see, like we loaded a table 3, right? So you can see that query, any data that we load into Power BI is called a query, and that's why we have a Power Query editor. Okay, and once that query loads the data, that every query will be converted into a table. Okay, and each table will be stored inside your Power BI data model. Okay, okay, so now let's see what we have here. So in our case, the first thing that I told about is I don't like these names, so I want to edit this. Okay, so if you click on the query here, I can edit the name here, or I can double click on it, or I can right click and rename. Okay, so right click and rename. So I can do it like this. So let's call this movies. Okay, so now then what we have here is tcons, title type, primary title, all of these are theirs, right? So tcons is basically the movie id which is there in movie imdb. So when you browse imdb website and let's say you open a particular movie, just notice the url, you will have something like some value like this. So this is actually the movie id that imdb follows. Okay, so that's why we are going to rename this as well. So right click and then rename, and I'm going to call this as movie ID. Okay, and yeah, like this. So this is now movie ID. The next thing is I have a column called title type. So what type of title it is. So IMDb has shows, movies, and web series and all of that, right? So those are title types. In our case, if you click on this drop down here and click on load more, it will try to show you a distinct of all the values that are there. So you can see like only movie is there. So this whole column has only one value, which is movie. So in our case, we can just get rid of this because there's no point in keeping this column which has only one value. Okay, and we are creating a report for movies only, so we can, it's well understood. So we can remove this column. To remove a column, just right click and click on remove. Okay, so when you remove a column, it will be any step, any changes that we are doing to a data set. If you have noticed, it's getting recorded as a step over here in the applied steps. Okay, so the first thing, if you see, if you want to navigate how the Power BI is loading the data, what you can do is navigate to the first step. The first thing is it is trying to connect to the source. So what it is doing is it's connecting to your data source by using a Power Query, and that Power Query is written in a language called mQuery. Okay, so this is how mQuery looks like. You don't need to know how mQuery works, how we write mQuery. It's no need to worry about that, because anything that we will do here, we will not write a single line of code. Okay, okay, so if you want to like dig deeper, if you want to do some advanced stuff, you can, if you know Power mQuery, you can write your mQuery and it will do the transformation. Okay, and then the next step that it did was navigation. So after connecting to data source, it navigated to the table 3 that we had, and it tried to get the data. Okay, and the first thing that you notice here is every column has a data type associated with it. Okay, so the data type can be seen here. So it's ABC123, ABC123. So ABC123 is basically general data type, which is not clear whether it's a text value, whether it's a numeric value. Okay, so in the next step, it's doing something called as change type. So Power BI is automatically trying to guess what is the data type of your column. Okay, so if you see change type, before the change type, everything was ABC123. After the change type, some of the columns have become ABC and some are still ABC123. So we will see why it is there. And some numerical columns have been changed into number. So this is whole number. This is again ABC. This is again whole number. Okay. Okay. So let's look at the next step that we did. We renamed the column. then we removed a column. Everything is recorded here. Okay, so let's say in any point of time you did something wrong and you want to go back in time. So this applied steps kind of acts as your timeline, and you can go back in time, but you cannot go forward in time once you go back, right? So how you go back? If you want to see what happened before, you just click on the steps and you can see what happened. And if you want to undo it, just delete a step. Okay, you have the cross. If I click this remove column step, delete it, I have my column back here. Okay, so everything is getting recorded as a step. So currently this is, all of these is not applied to your data. So if you see, all these things are still remaining like this. So this whatever changes you are doing in Power Query Editor, it's only changing the query for how Power BI is connecting to your data set. Okay, once we make all the changes and then we apply it, then that query gets executed and then it tries to pull the data while applying all those steps. Okay, that's why whenever we are doing some transformation, we use the Power Query Editor, so that any data limitation, or if you want to filter the data, if you want to remove some column, it does before it is loading the data into Power BI. Why? Can anyone tell me why we are trying to do the transformation before the Power BI is loading the data? Any guesses?
I'm not sure if I'm correct or not, but like as I can see the applied steps here. So like if in future we are sharing the link of this one, like this whole uh, this report to someone, to our manager or someone, so like they can see the applied steps whatever we have mentioned. So they shall not see whatever the transformation we have done.
Mrinmai, are you still there?
I think he just went for a while.
Yeah, that was really weird, isn't it? Like it felt like he disappeared. I think we'll just wait for 2 more minutes and there's some technical issue which happened on his side, and he'll just be back in a few minutes, guys. Yeah, there he is. I think there must be some technical issue, right? Sorry, I think you're on mute, Mrinmai.
Hello, can you hear me now? Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually my Wi-Fi got disconnected. Sorry for that. Yeah, let me share my screen again. Okay. Yeah, so someone was like saying something, right? Like why about the applied step, why we are doing the changes in Power Query Editor, and why we are trying to modify our data before it is being loaded into the report.
Because obviously we want data to be pre-processed before we write the report on it, so that visualizations don't have duplicate values or unclean data.
Correct. Again, any other answers? Anything? Any wild answers? Any wild guesses? Someone wants to make?
Art
Any
said
answer
that
is
Art mentioned something there. Like he said that it's because we don't want our reporting managers to know the unclean data, like to basically see the data which was pre-processed, and we don't want
okay.
them to know about the steps we followed.
Okay. So we will come to this point again. So there is the main reason why we are doing it. One reason is obviously we want our data to be pre-processed before building the report. Very, that's the first thing that comes to our mind, right? Another thing is like we don't want our report to be heavy. By heavy, I mean like we don't want it to take too much time to load for the user.
Yeah.
Okay. And one more thing to notice, whenever you share a report, you don't share this file. You actually share it on the cloud version. Okay, so in your cloud version, the end user will never see what is happening behind this report. So all these Power Query Editor and what our steps are applied, this is never visible to the user. So
Yeah.
only the user will only see something like this, a dashboard where he can click through the report and view the data. or the view the visuals. So this is the end user experience, but this is the developer experience where you are actually building your report. Okay, so the first thing is obviously we want to process the data. Next reason for doing it in Power Query Editor is we want to record each and every step. So let's say if you are giving this Power BI file to some other developer, let's say you have been moved to a different project, you want to like let them know what all changes you have done. Okay, if at any point of time they want to backtrack the changes and they want to see, let's say there is a bug in your report or something, so they can easily debug it.
Yeah.
Okay, then another reason for doing that is, like I already said, any transformation that you do here, it is doing the transformation to the query, which is in turn getting stored as a table in your data model. But any changes that you do in your Power Query Editor, it is doing changes to a query, and that query gets executed before loading the data. So that query actually results into a data set or or a table, and that table gets stored after executing the query, right? So if we limit our data in the query itself, so our data model will have less data in that case. By that what I mean is, let's say this particular column is, let's say, occupying, let's say 10 KB of data, right? So if I'm in our report, if I'm removing this column here, my whole data model will have less like my data model will be consuming less space to equivalent to 10 KBs maybe, right? So the numbers are not accurate, just to give you an idea. So basically, if your report has 1 billion records, let's say, and it has data for 10 years, okay, and in your reporting you don't need 10 years of data, you just need last 2 years of data, and you want the end user is only interested with the last 2 years of data. What was the performance, what was the sales performance, let's say, in the previous year, and what is the current sales performance. So that's what you are trying to do in the report. In that case, you can get rid of the last 8 years of data, right? The like old 8 years of data. So you can just filter your data here in your Power Query Editor, and when you apply the steps, when your report loads, before loading the data into your Power BI model, it will limit the data, and the final report that you are giving to the users, it will be very small in size, and it will load very fast. Okay, that's one of the major important features of Power Query Editor. I hope that makes clear, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That
Okay.
explains it.
Okay. So let's try to redo the step. We don't want this column. Let's remove it. Okay, just a minute.
I think Mrinmai is facing some network issues there, so we'll just wait for 2 more minutes. Yeah, I can see you. Mrinmai, I guess you're on mute.
Now you can see the report, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically what we were trying to do is we were trying to remove this column. So let's remove it. And then let's rename some of other columns. So let's scroll here. And to rename, the alternative is, instead of right clicking, you can just double click on the column name and just rename it. Okay. So we have a primary title, then we have a original title. Okay. So let's rename this as title. So if you see, we have two columns for the movie title. We have a primary title, we have a original title. Okay, so the difference here is, like, let's say we have a movie which was which a Latin movie or maybe Spanish movie, so they have their own language for that. Okay, so if you see, uh, let's look at this column. Okay, let's just look at this value. So this is chat A, and then the king of Brazil, but in the actual language it's called something like this. Okay, Rio do Brazil. But since we are making it for a general user who doesn't know what Brazilian language looks like or special characters looks like, so we will be showing this name, not this name. Okay, so in that case, we can remove this original title from our report. Okay, so just right click on it and remove it. The next thing is we have a start year. So when was this movie first started or launched? So we can rename this. So instead of start year, let's format it a little bit. Okay, and then we have an end year. So let's see what kind of values are there. So if I click on this drop down, I have /n. So this is a preview. So if you want to see all the data, you can click on load more. So then it will try to go through all the data and then fetch the distinct values. Okay. So in this case, the whole column has only one kind of value, which is /n. So none of the movies have NDA, so we can remove it. So always remember, try to keep your dataset as limited as possible. So you don't need to load anything unnecessary. You can load it when you need it later. Then you have
What about the null values? Do we have like an option to get rid of those?
Yeah, we can get rid of the null values, and if you see the we have /n values over here also, right? What we will do is we will make it user friendly. We will change this to something else. Okay, we will do the editing there. Okay, so now we have a column called as running minutes. So this is basically the duration of the movie. Okay, so let's call it as duration. Then we have some genres. So genre is basically like what category this movie falls in. So we have multiple genres here. Okay, so let's keep it like this for now. We will do something else, something interesting with this column. Let's move ahead with the other columns. We have a column called as awards and nominations. How many awards that does this particular movie title has? How many nominations it got, and whether this movie got the best picture award or not. Okay, so this best picture is 0 or 1. If a particular movie was awarded with as recognized as best picture, so then it will have a 1 value, otherwise it will have a 0 value. Okay, if you want to see what kind of values are there, click on load more and you will have only 2 values, I guess, 0 and 1, right? And for the awards, let's look at the drop down. We have null values and we have numerical values. Okay, yeah, so we have values like this, and in nomination we have values like this. So we can keep the data type like this. There's no wrong with having because awards cannot be fraction, so obviously whole numbers. Nominations, again, it can have whole number values, not fraction, so this is again correct. Power BI has detected the data type correctly. Okay, now I was talking about the duration, right? So in this duration, this duration is actually in minutes, right? So this duration might be in fractional value. So in our current data set, we only have whole number values. But let's say in future, we have a data coming in future, which might have fractional values. In that case, if we keep it as a whole number, we might lose some value or weight from our report. Okay, so in that case we don't want to lose important information, so we will change the data type to decimal. To change the data type, you can click on this value here, or you can just select on the column and then you have the data type. You can select from the drop down here. Okay, there are multiple ways to do it. Okay, so every step that we are doing, it's getting recorded. That's a good thing. Now let's look at these things. Okay, so in this particular thing, the title column has not been recognized as a proper data type. Either it should be ABC or 123, right? ABC 123 means Power BI was not able to detect the data type. So let's see what is the value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort it in ascending order. So by sorting it, it will try to give me the value. So if you see here, we have some date values, then we have date time values, then we have proper integer values, negative values are there, and decimal values are also there. So we have mixed values. That's why Power BI is getting confused whether what kind of value is there. And then we have some movie names which has a special character in the beginning, hash 42, hash 50 fathers, hash 66, hash bkky, something like this, and we have some other also. So what we will try to do is we will tell Power BI that okay, this we know that this particular column should be a text value. So what we will do is we will first change the data type to ABC. So ABC is basically text. So when I change the text, if you see any text column will have the values on left aligned. So again, that's a distinction that you can see with just looking at the data. So any text value will be aligned on the left. Any numerical value or a date value or date time value or timestamp value will be aligned right. Okay. So all the numerical values are aligned right and text values are aligned left. Okay. Now we have done this. The next thing that we want to do is we want to get rid of some special characters that we don't want. For starters, what we will do is we will get rid of these hash values. Okay, so to remove these hash values, we will do simple find and replace. Okay, just right click on this value, right click and replace values. Okay, when you click on replace values, it will by default fill the whole cell value, but we only want to replace the hash. So what we want to find is hash, then what we want to replace is empty characters. So don't put any space or anything, just keep it empty. And then what they have some advanced option match. So do you want to match the entire cell value, which means like a cell value only has a value which is equal to hash, it is not having any other characters along with it. So if you want only want to replace those values, you can check this and replace using special characters if you want to do that. So let's say if you want to replace a value between two codes, so you can put the values there. In our case it's very simple find and replace, so I'm not going to do any advance. So just click on OK, and this will replace all the hash values. So if you see now, the hash values should go away. So okay, so now let's try to sort it again. Let's sort it in ascending order. Okay, so now we have some values here. So this particular column has this particular cell has triple brackets. I'm not sure if it's visible. Let me try to zoom in a little bit. It's not zooming. Just okay, can you see the triple brackets here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we want to get rid of these triple brackets, but not these single brackets. Okay, to do that, we will again do the find and replace. Okay, so let me get rid of this magnifier now. So just right click on this and replace values. And we will first try to replace the opening three brackets and with replace with empty string. And can anyone tell me why I'm not putting just a single bracket and I'm putting three brackets instead of that?
Because like it will only replace one single bracket if you put one single, like you have to put all the characters to replace it with the character you want to replace.
Okay, but the real reason why I'm doing this is because, like I said, I only want to replace where I have three brackets together. Okay,
Yeah,
but
that's what, like, I mean,
yeah,
you have
yeah,
to replace it, the
exactly.
value
So
with
if I
that
put
value.
only single bracket, what it will do is anywhere it finds a bracket, it will remove it. So
Yeah.
that will actually remove some valid information instead of outliers. Okay, but we want to replace where we have three brackets together. Okay, so let's do that. So replace with empty and okay. Okay, then we will again do this replace for the closing brackets. Right click on any value. You don't specifically have to click on that particular value. Then put on the three brackets like this and replace. Okay, now our data set is a little bit cleaner now. Okay, so now next thing is we did some sorting of this column, right? So that sorting we don't want to keep to our data set. Okay, so just remove the sort here. Just delete the sort step. And then we have this sort rows one. Again, we can remove that step. Now the remaining steps are remained. Okay, so we can do this. And at any point of time, if you want to like modify a step, just see if you have any settings icon here. So if you click on that, you can modify the change that you have done. Okay, you don't need to redo it or remove it. So this is all the changes that we want to do here. And again, like let's rename these columns as well. Let's format it a little bit. Yes, insert a step. Okay, actually I was on this step, that's why it's asking. Let's remove this step to the last. Okay, let's rename this as well. And this best picture column, let's make it more specific. Let's call it like is best picture. Okay, whether this movie was a best picture or not. Okay, now we are done. Okay, now what we are going to do is, if you see, some of the movies have multiple genres, right? What we want to do is, we want specific value, specific rows for specific genres. Okay, so let's say we have this movie here, and what is the movie? It's wandering soap opera. Okay, so this has three genres: comedy, drama, and fantasy. So what we want to do is, we want this movie to have three rows: comedy, drama, and fantasy, so that when we are trying to filter our report, we will have single values of genres instead of comma separated values. Okay, so if let's say I want to see comedy values in our report, I will select comedy, right? So comedy is single value, so it will only filter our report which is having single comedy value, but it will leave out the values which is having comedy as a comma separated value, right? So that's the reason why we are splitting it, and we, so that we can have similar values, so that we have drama has as a single value, not as a comma separated value or any other genre. Okay, but we are not going to do this inside this table. We will be creating a new table, and inside that table we will do this change. Okay, the reason why we are not doing it in this table is because in this table we have unique movies, and I don't want to mess this. If I split it into multiple values, my movies will get duplicated, and that will affect in my data model. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is, we will first duplicate this whole query. Okay, so first just right click on it, and then we have duplicate. So when you duplicate, your all the steps that you did here, all the transformations are already pre-applied to it, and we have a new table here. Okay, so let's call it as genres, for because this will only have genres. Okay, so I've renamed the table. Now let's get rid of the columns which we don't need here. We will be needing the movie ID, but we will not be needing other columns because those columns are already present in the movies table. So we can select multiple. So to select multiple, just click on a column and hold your control key, and you can click on multiple. Or you can just click on your column, and then you can click on your shift key and then hold to the right end wherever you want to stop. And then just remove columns from here. Okay, and then then there is an alternative way to do it. If you want to, if you have very limited number of columns that you want to keep, and you want to remove all other columns, just select the columns that you want to keep. I want to keep movie ID and genres. Right click and remove other columns. This will remove all other columns. Okay, so now we have a clean data set where we have genres and movies, but now we want to split it. Okay, so to split this into multiple values, it's a very simple process. Just right click on this column, right click, and then we have something called as split column by delimiter. Okay, delimiter is basically separators. So we will click on this, and by default it will ask like whether you want to code the characters or some or not, or whether you want to, how you want to split, what kind of delimiter you have. So in our case it's comma, or if you want to have a special character of your custom choice, you can do that. In our case it's comma, so I'm going to keep it as comma right now. And quote character, let's keep it as none, because the values are not inside quotes, they are simply values and then separated by commas. Okay, and then we have advanced options. So there are two options: whether I want to split the values into multiple columns. So let's say we have a movie which has three genres, we will have three columns for that. We don't want that, we want three different rows for it. Okay, split the values into rows. Just click on this, and then we can click on OK. So when you do this, your whole table got formatted into multiple values now. Okay, so over here just rename this column now. Okay, let's do that. And in this you have a value as \n, right? So we want to replace this as well. So right click and replace values, and we want to call it as unknown, because that's more user friendly and than the \n, because the end user might not know what \n is, but unknown is much more clear. Okay. Okay, so now let's replace this, and I want to match entire cell, because I don't want to replace any values which is there in between. But obviously that will not be there. Any genre with this kind of value will be irrelevant. But in our case, like, we again don't want that to be replaced with unknown. That will again mess up the values. Okay, so just a heads up. So if you want, in our case, we will replace the entire cell value as a \n, and replace it with unknown. Okay. So let's click on OK, and we have those removed, and we have an unknown value, I guess. Yeah, this one. Okay, so that's pretty much it that we are going to do. And the next transformation that we will do is from this movies table, we will just remove this genres table column, because this particular column is already available here. So can anyone tell me how we are going to link these two tables together? Because we have moved the genres from the movies, and we need some way of associating a movie with a genre, correct? Any idea?
We will use the genre, one of the common columns to join.
We'll use the movie ID as it.
Yeah,
Exactly,
common
yes.
columns. Yeah.
Yeah, so whenever we are having multiple tables, we need a common column which has similar values and related values, and we will create something called as relationships to connect two tables. Okay, so if anybody asks you why we need relationships are needed to connect two different tables, so that we can, so those two tables can filter each other. Okay, and the filtering can be customized based on our requirement. Okay. Okay, so this is pretty much all the transformation that we did. Now, if you want to get a little curious about what we did just now, so if you go to the movies or any of the tables, what you can do is you can just go to view, and okay, I think it should be here somewhere. There is a option for advanced editor. Yeah, if I click on this advanced editor on the view and click on advanced editor, all the steps that we did has been written into a Power Query language, which is the mQuery. Okay, so if somebody is very good at mQuery, you are more than welcome to write everything here. No need to use the GUI. But in your case, like Power BI has made it so simple that you don't need to write any single line of mQuery. Everything can be achieved. Anything that you want to do in Power Query Editor, you can achieve it through this nice UI that you have. Okay, so you can go through this, what all changes that we did, how it is working. It's very simple. Basically, any change that we are doing, it's assigned to a variable, and that variable is getting used into the next line. Again, finally, we return everything here. Let's close this, and let's go to the home tab, and then we have something called as close and apply. Just close and apply. So when you do this, all the changes are getting now applied, or the query is getting executed, and Power BI will now load the data according to the query changes. Okay, so now when we have loaded it, you must have noticed something in the last step. It did something called as detecting relationships. Okay, whenever we have multiple tables, Power BI will automatically try to detect relationships based on the common column names. So in our case, both the tables, the common column has the same column name, so Power BI has automatically created the relationship for us. So how do we see the relationship? Before that, let's look at something called as data model. Okay, Power BI has three views. One is reporting view, next is the data view, and the third is the relationship view. Okay, where we have the relationship here. Okay, so we will look at this also, but first let's look at the reporting view. Reporting view is where you create a report, and we have your visualization, how you can modify it, and you have the fields that we will be using in the report. And then we have the data model. Within the data model, you can look at the data, and you can also do the transformations that we just did in the Power Query Editor. But the only difference in doing the transformations here and doing the transformation in Power Query Editor is any change that you do here, it is not getting recorded as a step, and you cannot backtrack your changes. One point to remember. Next point to remember is any transformation that you do to your data here in the data model or the model view is like any change that you do here is done after your data has been loaded into a model. Okay, so the changes that you do here will actually slow down your report. Okay, because it is trying to do the changes after you have limited your, like after the data has been loaded into your report. So if you want to limit your data, if you have columns to remove or something, those things you can do in Power Query Editor. And as long as like most of the changes that you want to do, try to keep it in the Power Query Editor. And there are some changes that you need to do are not possible in Power Query Editor, but that is possible in the data model. So we will talk about that also. Just to highlight, if you want to remove a column, if you want to remove your rows, those things cannot be done in the data model but can be done in Power Query. if you want to create some custom calculation or aggregation on your data, those things can be done in your data model but not in your Power Query. Okay, just an idea, and there is a lot more things that goes on. So now let's look at the relationship that we have here. Okay, so in this we have a relationship that is being created from movies into genres. Okay, let's keep it like this. I will show you what's wrong in here. Let's first try to create a report. Okay, so first we have is our reporting page. So no visuals are dragged here. So if you go to this part, this icon, this is called paint, I mean the visual formatter. So in our case, this is currently asking you to format the page. You can rename the page name, or you can do this like here also. Then there are other options. You can change the page size, you can add backgrounds. Okay, then you can change the alignment, then you can add wallpapers, and you can do all those things. Okay, so let's try to create a visual here. So first thing that we will do is let's try to create a bar graph. Okay, so I've clicked on the bar graph, which is basically a stacked column chart. Okay, so in this stacked column, I can resize it, I can do whatever I want, then I can add the fields here. Okay, so let's try to see the count of movies. So let's drag the movie ID here into the values, and then let's drag the start year into the axis. Okay, axis is basically the x-axis. Now if I can resize it and I can do all these changes, so I can see like in 2017 movie count was more, 2018 the movie count was less. Okay, but I can still cannot see what is the value. So if you see here, let me zoom in. So if you see, we have around somewhere 12k, around 13k, and this is somewhere around 11k or so, but the values are not clear. So if you want the user to see the values properly, you can go to the format pane. Now since we have make sure to select this visual here. Okay, so when you have selected this visual, you can see a lot of values here. So these properties are different. You have different properties for different visuals. So the one that we are looking for is data label. So it's turned off by default. You can turn it on. When you turn it on, Power BI will show the data labels like this. Okay, so in this particular visual, you can format everything. You can change the size, you can change the color, you can change the title, you can change everything. So if you notice, the Power BI has automatically tried to give this a visual a title, count of movie ID by start year. Okay, so that's how intuitive Power BI is. Okay, so if you want to change, rename this. So by default, it is doing a count on the movie ID. If you want to do something else, you can do that also. So you can just rename it also. So count of movie ID, or maybe count of, let's call it count as count of movies. Okay, so count of movies by start year. So that's one name that we have given. Okay, so let's keep it like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a filter, or maybe a slicer. Okay, slicer is basically a filter which is there inside your report. So that's called a slicer. And then we have a filter pane, which is mainly for filtering your whole page of report, or maybe your whole report. Okay, so this filter pane is for that purpose. It's only for filtering your data. And if you want to create something within your report, so that then you can do something like a slicer. Okay, so this is the slicer, and you can format it however you want. So let's try to move the genre values here. So let's bring the genres here, so we can see all the different genres here. Okay, so now let's try to click on any value. I want to click on comedy, and I want to see all the comedy related movies here. But if you see, the report is not getting filtered in that way. If you see like this, it is not working. Okay, so if I click on this 2014, then also nothing is happening, right? So why is this happening? Because the relationship is wrong. I will show you what is wrong. Just remember that in this report, in this visual, we have the columns dragged from movies table, and in this we have the column dragged from genres table. Just remember this, and let's move on to the relationship. So in this relationship, if you see, the relationship direction is from movies table to genres table, which means the movies table is able to filter your genres, but genres is not able to filter your movies. That's exactly what we want. We want to select a genre, and we want the movies table to be filtered, or the visuals that are created from movies. Okay, that is what we are trying to do, but that is not working because the relationship direction is wrong. Okay, so what we can do is double click on it, and then we can see, like, we have the genres here, the movie ID is selected, movie ID is selected. And then you can see the cardinality is basically how the data is there. So if you see many to one, which means like genres table has many and the movies table is on the one side, which means the movies table will have unique records and the genres table will have duplicate values. Okay, that's one that's something called as cardinality. So there are multiple values, one to one. So if there are two tables, both the tables have unique values, you can use one to one. If you have a table which is one unique, which and another table which is having duplicate values, then you can use the many to one or one to many. Okay, and if both the tables have duplicate values, you can use many to many. Since Power BI has automatically detected the data set, so it's already created as many to one, and the cross filtering direction is single. Okay, and the filtering direction, always remember that filtering direction, if it's a unidirectional relationship, it will always be from one side to the many side, which means unique records will filter the duplicate records. Okay, to remember. So that is why we have the direction from one side to the many side, which is movies table has unique movie IDs, genres table have duplicate movie IDs. Any doubts still here?
No, I think we can keep going.
Okay, just let me know if it's getting boring. We will try something new. Okay, so next thing is, we were talking about the relationship direction, right? Can we move this direction from here to here? Possibly, but no. We cannot have a relationship which is unidirectional from many side to the one side. Okay, it will always be from one to many. And if we want the filtering to work from many side to one, we can make this bi-directional, which means we will have a both, the filtering will happen on both sides. This will filter this and this will filter that. So that is what we are trying to do. We have a both. Okay, and some of you might say like, we can change the cardinality, right? We can change it like one to many. Okay, so then also it will not work. Why? Because if you see one, it is specifically saying that if even if you make this one to many, let's make this single. Okay, okay, so it's the cardinality you selected isn't valid for this relationship. Power BI is telling you that the table that you have kept on one side will not work. Why? Because this particular table has duplicate values. Okay, so that's one thing. So that's one thing that will Power BI will not allow. Even if you somehow you are able to do it, it will not work. Why? Because every time you create a relationship, Power BI will always keep the one side as the from side and many side as the two side. So direction will always be like this in a single direction. But in our case, we want a bi-directional relationship from many to one and one to many. Okay, just make the change and click on OK. So when you make the change, you will see the direction symbol has changed. So this is how we modify the relationship, right? Let's say, for example, the column names are not same and Power BI did not detect this relationship. Okay, how do we create a relationship in that case? So I'm going to delete this relationship for now, just to show you how we can create this manually. So what you can do is, it's as simple as clicking on this column, dragging on to the column that we want to relate. So when you do this, it will automatically create this relationship. One way. Another way is going through the relationship viewer. So that is over here. If you go to Home tab, then you have the Manage Relationships. Click on this, and then you can create a new. And also you can do an auto detect. So if Power BI has not detected, it will try to detect. So then you can select the table. So I'm going to select genres, and since the column names are same, it is already selected. But if you want to select a different column, you can click on this and it will select. And let's keep it as both, and let's click on OK. Okay, so the relationship has been created. Now let's close it. When you close, it will create the relationship. Clear? Now let's go back to our report. Now let's see whether we are able to do that or not. Let's say we want to see the horror movies. So now this report visual got filtered. Let's say I want to see the crime movies. It's getting filtered. Again, comedy, right? It's doing like this. So this is one way of having a report work. So you can obviously like share. This is not looking that pretty. We will make this pretty. And one thing to notice is it's single select. It's, you cannot select multiple. So to select multiple, just click on your control key and or your command key on your Mac, and then select on something else. It will select multiple. But if you don't want the user to have this kind of experience, you can click on this slicer visual, go to format, then you have selection control. Here multi select with control has been enabled. Okay, so if you disabled it, and then if you go back to your report, the user will have checkboxes. So they don't need to press the control key. They will be able to select multiple values without holding the control. Okay. So most of the cases, this is the most user friendly way. So always remember to check this with how you want your report slicer to work. So let's keep it like this, and let's do it like this. Let's keep it like this, and I'm going to keep it on the right side. Okay, and I'm going to move this a little towards here. And now what we're going to do is we will make this report look better. Okay, I'm going to resize it a little bit like this, and I'm going to add a title to this report. Okay, to create a title, it's very simple. Go to insert. You can add a text box, or you can create a shape or whatever you want. I'm going to add a text box here, and I'm going to drag this to the top like this somewhere here, and I'm going to stretch it like this. Okay, and one more thing, your report has no background right now. I want to have a static white background, so just select on the empty space, go to format, go to page background, and you have color is there, and transparency is 100%. Just reduce it to 0. When you do that, your page background will have some volume to it. And just click on the text box again, and we will add a background to it. So let's click on this text box, and let's give it a name first, movies report, and this will be for 2014 to 2017. Okay, so movies report 2014 to 2017. Just select everything and change the size, maybe 24. Okay, that looks good. And let's add a background to it. So you can go to background. It's white right now. Let's keep it something else. Let's make it this color. Okay, and let's change the text color, so that select everything, go to the text, and let's make it white. Okay, now it's looking better. And then we have these visuals here, right? So let's keep it like this, enlarge it a little bit. Now let's create some more visuals, and we will format this as well. So let's format this visual, and first thing that we'll do is change the font a little bit. So you can go to the title, and inside the title you can edit this, whatever Power BI has given, you can edit that also. Let's change the font color to the background of this. Okay, so that our UI is consistent. You can click on this, or if you want to see what kind of color it is, you can go back to this, and you can go to the background, click on more colors, and you will have the hex value. You can copy this, and in our case, let's come back here and go to the title, colors, and more colors, and it's the exact same thing. So you can paste it. Okay, so the color has been changed. Now let's change the font. So font family is 10, but I don't like that. I'm going to use something more standard and user friendly. Sego UI, this is the most common font that you'll find in any of the Microsoft products. So I like that. So I will use this. And font size is okay, but I'm going to change the font size of these values here. Okay, so do that to make sure. Just see how your x-axis and y-axis is showing. So if you see, it has a exclamation mark here, which is saying that increase the visual a little bit. Okay, now you have these available. Okay, so now you can expand the x-axis, and over here you can change the color, you can change the size. So I'm going to make this somewhere around 11, and so this is for the x-axis. Let's go do it for the y-axis as well. Okay, 11 points, and let's change the value for these data labels as well. So let's go to the data labels and change the size to 11. Okay, now it's a little more visible, and let's change the font of these titles for the x-axis and y-axis. Okay, so for that, go to the x-axis, and in the x-axis you have a title. So you have the title on, you can turn it off, it will go away. You can turn it on like this. So in our case, I'm going to turn off the x-axis because it's pretty much understood that 2014 is a year, and we have mentioned in the title also. So I'm going to turn off this, and okay, let me just turn on and change the font family for now. I will show you why I'm doing this. Let's change that, and now let's turn it off. Go to y-axis, and here also I'm going to keep it, but I'm going to change the font. I'm going to make it Sego UI. Okay, so now it's there. Now let's add a border to this visual. So if you have trouble looking through where is border, you can search also. You can search for border, and border will come up. You can turn it on, and let's give it a border of slightly grayish, something like this. Okay, now it's looking better. Now let's create another visual, and that visual will be related to genres. So I'm going to copy this whole visual and paste it like this. Just to copy, you can hold Command or Control and Control C, Control V. Okay, that's one way. Or else what you can do, click on the empty space, and whenever you want to add a new visual, make sure that no other visual is selected, and then click on the visual type that you want to select. Okay, in my case, I want a clustered column chart. Okay, just click on this. It will add a new visual, and you can add the things. Okay, so why I copied is I don't want to redo the transformations for the formatting of these font family and all of that. Okay, but let's say you don't know how to copy, you are not able to copy, you are creating a new visual. So let's keep it like this, and I'm going to drag something. I'm going to move the total awards for a movie divided by the genre for each year. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So let's drag the awards to the values because I want to see all the values. So it's currently doing a count of awards, but I'm going to do a sum on the awards. Okay, so I'm going to do a sum of awards. So you can do the change to make the aggregations like this. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to drag the start year to the axis. And since this is a clustered column chart, which means like we can have a cluster of bars for each of the category. Okay, so that we will do over the legends. So we will drag the genres to the legends. Okay, if you see now it has been divided into different genres for each year, and all the genres have a different color associated with it. Okay, so now if you see this particular visual is different from this because of the formatting, right? So if you want to save your time, what you can do is select the visual from where you want to copy the formatting. Just click on this and go to the home tab. You have a format painter. This is basically to copy the formatting. Just click on this paint and make sure that this visual is already selected. And after that, click on the paint formatter, and then click on the visual where you want to paste the formatting. Okay, so I want to paste the formatting here. So just by single one click, I have made all the changes here without needing to go through the formatting options again. Okay, now if you see the numbers are here, like which is not looking that great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to this formatting pane, and I'm going to turn on the data labels, turn off the data labels. Okay, and here it says sum of awards. Again, I don't want that. I want it to be simple awards. So I just double click on it and you can rename, or you can right click and then also you can rename. So from here, rename for this visual. So this any rename that you do here, it is only getting renamed here. It's not getting renamed here. Okay. Okay. So one more thing to notice. So when we drag a whole number column into a visual, by default, it will try to do a count instead of a sum. Okay. So to change the aggregation, you can change it from here, or else you can tell Power BI that every time we are doing something, by default, try to do a specific aggregation. Don't assume things. Okay, we can tell Power BI to do that. So to do that, go to the data model here and select the table that you want to do the transformation for. For movies, we have the awards here, right? So I want this to be aggregated as sum every time I'm doing, because I want to see that sum of the awards. Okay, so just go to summarization. So here summarization, you have different options. We have average, we have minimum, max, count, sum. So any calculation that you do on a group is basically an aggregation. Okay. So we want to do a sum every time for awards and also for nominations, because we want to see the total nominations. So we want to do this. And for best picture, we don't want any summarization. That's why it is at don't summarize. Okay. And start year is there, again don't summarize. And duration, can anyone tell me what kind of aggregation would be better for duration? The options are sum, min, max, average. Any guesses?
I think the max.
Just remember that this is the movie duration in minutes, and let's say I want to see the movie duration for 2016. What value will make more sense, whether the sum of durations, average of duration, minimum of duration, or maximum of
Average.
duration?
Average.
Average. Yeah. So always look at the data, try to understand it. Okay, what kind of values are there, what is the meaning of a column? So those kind of things, if you try to understand, most of the cases this will be explained to you from wherever you are getting the data. And sometimes you need to like dig deeper into the data set, you need to do some formatting, you need to do your own analysis. Okay. So in our case, we know that the meaning of duration, what significance it has, right? So if I say I want to see the duration for movies for 2016, having a sum will not make sense because that's always irrelevant. More movies can be added, so time will increase, right? But if I see an average duration, how long was a movie in 2016, then average will make more sense. Okay. And also minimum and maximum, sometimes that also makes sense because I want to see the shortest movie or the longest movie. Okay. But in our case, average is the most relevant thing, so I'm going to select the duration and then click on average. So every time we drag duration into a report, Power BI will automatically do the average for it. We don't need to like select from here and tell Power BI to do the sum or average. Okay. So now if I remove this awards and drag it again, and let's go to the values. So if you see, like, it's simply keeping it as values, but if you go to the drop down here, it's saying it is doing a sum on it. Okay. So now this is more user friendly for the developer. Okay. And also to see if a particular column has aggregation applied to it or summarization applied to it, you will see a symbol like this. This is the summation symbol. So any summarization that you have applied, default summarization, will have a symbol like this. Okay. Okay, now let's create some more visuals. I will probably create two more. Let's create a table for a detailed view. Okay, so let's click on the table here and then do it like this and like this. Let's expand it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a few of the values here. I'm going to drag the movie ID. I want to, because this is in table, we want the complete detail of records. Okay, so I'm going to drag the movie ID. I'm going to drag the, okay, so I've dragged it from the wrong table. Let's drag it from the movie ID here. Then we want the title of the movie. And also you can just click on the checkboxes, it will automatically get added. Okay. And then we want the total awards. And what is the duration? Then also we want to see the nominations. Like by how many nominations does a movie have? And we also want to see the genres. Okay, let's click on the genres. So if you see, we have these genres here. And one more thing, we can also keep the start here if we want, like this. Okay, now let's resize this column a little bit. And for this, I don't want to call it a start year, I'm just going to call it as year. So I'm renaming this for the visual. So just rename it from the data tabs here for this table. Okay, so now it looks much more better. And nomination, duration, awards, movie ID, yeah, that's okay. So next thing is sometimes we don't want the user to look at the ID values, because the to an end user, for me, I don't care how IMDb is storing the IDs for their movies. It's not relevant for me. What's more meaningful for me is the title, the duration, the what genre it is, what year it is, how many awards it has, right? All these things are much more relevant for me. So I can get rid of this movie, but something that I can do to make this more report more interactive is, let's say we want to add the link for this movie where I can look it on the website of IMDb. Let's say if I have a link here, I can click on it and it will take me to the browser of browser, and it will open the IMDb website and open this movie in that. So can we do that? So let's try to see the IMDb website, how it looks. Okay, let's open any of the movies in the IMDb website. Okay, so let's go to IMDb and let's say I want to open this movie. Black Widow has been released. Okay, so now if you see, we have IMDb title, and then we have this movie title ID. Okay, and then we have this reference. This is irrelevant. This is basically telling IMDb from where I came to this website. So I came from Google search, so it's keeping that reference here. So this is the how a standard IMDb movie ID looks. Okay, movie page or movie link looks like. Okay, let's keep this. Let's copy this and let's keep it on a notepad. We will make use of this. Okay. Okay, let's minimize that. Okay, so now first thing is we have the movie ID, and all of this is basically a static information. We can just append it, right? So can we do that? So yes, we can do that. It's very simple. So for that, you will see something called as a calculated column. So we are going to create that as well. So for that, we will be using something called as DAX. DAX is a language or a dynamic expression language used specifically for SSAS or SQL Server Analysis Service and for Power BI. Okay, mostly for Power BI right now. So you just go to the data model, or you can create it from the report view also. Just click on the table that in which you want to create a new column. Okay, just click on this table, and here you have table tools. Inside tools you have new column, new table. You can create a new measure. We will see what a measure is, or else you can just right click and create a new column. Okay, so I'm going to create a new column, and the name of this column is basically URL. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to append that static value. So in Power BI, static values are written in double quotes. So if you see, static values needs to be written in double quotes, and then we want to add something, right? That addition will be this movie IDs. We want to do something like movie ID here. Okay, we want to do something like this. Okay, so to achieve that, let's first add the static value to our URL. So this is the static part. Let's put it here. And to add to strings in Power BI, we don't use a plus value. We use a ampersand. Okay, the ampersand symbolizes concatenation of two strings. Okay, you can achieve it like this, and then you can mention the column name that you want to append with. So column names are always written in square brackets. Okay, so just you can put the square bracket, and you can select the column here, movie ID. Okay, so you can also specifically mention from where you want to get this column, movies, movie ID, something like this. Okay, so now if I click on checkbox, and this will actually create this column which will have the URL values. Okay, it's properly formatted and we have the correct values. If you open this link on browser, we will get this movie. Okay, this is one way of appending. Another way is we can use a function. Okay, so I'm going to just cut this for now, and we have a function called as concatenate. Okay, so the most preferred way of doing is using a function. So we can paste the static values like this, and in concatenate, it takes basically two parameters of string, concatenate text1, text2, and then separated by comma. So in our case, second text will be the column name like this, and we can close the bracket and we can press enter. Okay, so when you have multiple columns or multiple values to be appended, go with the ampersand value. That's more usable or more user friendly. Okay, so this is how we have created this column. Now let's go back to our report. Let's add this URL. So any calculated column will have a symbol like this. This function symbol will be there for a calculated column. Okay, so let's drag this into this table. So URL is here, but if you see, it's this URL is not clickable. I want to make this clickable, and don't want the user to see all these values. Maybe I want a icon here that on which the user will click and go to the browser. Okay, that's what I want to do. So to do that, we have something called as categorization. Okay, so if you go to the data model again, click on this column, and then you have data category. So in this data category, you have web URL. So when you mention this, Power BI now knows that this particular column has URL values. Now, if you go back to a report, now these links are clickable. Okay, now if it is showing. So if I click on this, it will take me to the browser. Okay, now next thing is I want to change this into a symbol. So make sure that table is selected, go to format, and then you have field formatting. Okay, inside field formatting, you should have something. So just select the URL column, and I think it's not here. Yeah, values. Inside the values tab, you have this. So you can turn on this URL icon. So any column which has URL values and it's been recognized by Power BI, it will change into this icon like this. Now I can reduce the size of the report like this. Okay. Okay. Again, now for this also, what I'm going to do is I can copy this formatting from here and paste it like this. Okay, basically for the border and all. So it has added the border and the font has been changed. Everything is looking good. So now I'm going to create another. Let's resize this a little bit. Okay, now let's begin. So we want to add another visual here. I want to see the trend of average duration of movies throughout the year. Okay, so in which year long movies were made, in which year the movies were shorter. So I want to see that. So let's click on the line chart. I want to create a line chart, and let's align this a little bit somewhere here. So height is okay. I want to drag the duration to the values, and since we have already added the average, so it is an average here. And then let's add the year into the axis. Okay, so now we can see in 2017 the movies were a little shorter as compared to the other years. Okay, and 2015 the movies are more longer. So again, this is there. Let's copy the formatting from here, copy and paste. So the report is looking better now. Okay, so now the report has been made. What you can do now, I want to just move everything a little towards the up. I can select everything, move it like this, and now it's looking good. So the report has been made. Now if you want to add a icon to your report, you can do that as well. So I'm going to add a simple image to it. So let's go to insert image, and I have this clip art. So in your dataset that I have provided, you must have this clip art here. Just click on this. It will insert an image. You can resize it. Okay, let's put it here somewhere. And I'm going to add a background to it. Okay, white background looks good. Okay, now this report is looking some much better. Okay, it's presentable at least. So this is how the report has been created. So if you want to save it, so in, let's say if you are working on Excel, in Excel the report gets in Excel, any Excel file or spreadsheet, the file gets saved as XLX. Similarly, in Power BI, it gets saved as .pbix. Okay, so go to save as, or maybe save. You can click on that, and then select where you want to save it. So in my case, I'm going to save it here only. So let's call it movies report, and click on save. Okay, so this is how we have created it. So this is all that's there to learn for a beginner. There is just, this is just the bare minimum of the surface that we have touched in Power BI. Okay, there is a lot more advanced stuff that you can do. Once you are comfortable with whatever we did today, you can go to the Power BI documentation. Everything it will be become it will become very clear to it. Like you will be able to understand what is a calculated column, what is DAX, what is import model, what is direct query. So all those things will become much clear, and you can get started as soon as you want. Okay. So I talked about something called as measure, right? So what is a measure? A measure and a column, there are two things. So a measure and column, they both are created using a DAX formula. But the difference between a calculated column and a measure is a calculated column will add a column to your model, and it will be a physical column. And this formula gets evaluated for each and every row. Okay. But a measure is just a formula that gets saved. So it's not increasing the size of your model, but it's just a formula, and that formula is basically an aggregation. So if I want to see, let's say I want to sum and count the total number of movies throughout this table. And I want to, maybe I want to sometimes I want to group it by year, and I want to filter for 2016 only, I want to filter it for 2017, I want to count all the movies for that. And maybe I want to see all the movies which has more than which is longer than 90 minutes. I can do that. So that kind of things, any aggregation which is resulting a single value for a particular group by or a particular filter condition, that is something that you will achieve through a measure. Okay, let's see how we can do that. So I talked about counting all the movies, right? Let's click on the table and click on create new measure. So this measure, when you click on that, so it will open the, okay, let's close it. I've clicked on the wrong one. Okay, now let's go to the measure. So let me redo it. My PowerBI was glitching. Okay, I have removed the measure. Now let's click on new measure again. So when you click on new measure, it will open the DAX editor here. So in this is the measure, and you can rename it. Let's call it as hash of movies. Okay, hash is basically number of movies. So hash movies, and I want to count all the movies. So to count movies, I can, if I count the total movie IDs, I can get that, or I can count the rows of these movies, right? So I can achieve it both ways. So first I'm going to do is count. So this is count. We have a function called count, and I want to count the movie IDs. Okay. So this will do the correct count of the movies. And if you want to be like a very safe towards your formula, you can do a distinct count. Let's say by mistake something happened and this table has duplicate movies. So in that case, counting will give you incorrect movie count, and doing a distinct count will give you a correct result. Okay. Okay. So distinct count, then you pass the column name here. Okay, so this will count the movies, and then press enter. When you press enter, this measure will be added. So if you see, the URL was added in here as a column, but movies is nowhere to be seen. It's not showing up here. Why? Because this is just a formula that you saved. Okay, it's just a DAX function, or that's DAX measure that you have saved here, and this will be calculated, and it will give you a result when you add it to your report. Okay, this is a calculation, and it's a real-time calculation that the Power BI is doing, and it is calculated when you add it to a report, not before that. That is why creating a measure will not increase your model size. So if you go to the report now, if I click on measure, it will by default create a bar chart. Okay, we have this bar chart, and if I add the start year to the axis, so it is getting filtered by the year, and we are getting different values for different year, even though we have written only one formula, which is counting of the movie IDs. And since we have added the start year, your count of movie ID is getting calculated for each of the year, and it is doing a kind of a group by. Now if I, let's say, remove this start year, and let's say I add a genre to it, it will count the movies according to different genres. So the measure is much more dynamic as compared to the calculated column. Okay, always remember, calculated column needs to be calculated for each and every row. So that is something, if you want to do, you can do that. If you want to have aggregate calculations or aggregations that you want to do, go with a measure. Okay, you cannot achieve aggregations through a column. And also one thing to notice, if you see this particular chart, this is also doing the same thing. We have added the movies. This is, if you hover over it, you can see that this is the movie ID, right? Count of movie IDs. So if you see this, it is actually doing a count. You can also select distinct count. So whatever aggregation this is doing, you can save this aggregation into a measure that we have done. Okay, let's remove this and let's add the measure into it. Okay, same thing. Now let's rename it. Instead of hash, let's keep it like this, movies only, or you can keep the hash if you want. Okay, so hash movies, and by start year, and you have this distribution over the years. Any doubts till now? You can drop it in the chat if you want. Okay, great. I was talking about the Power BI service, right? So that is basically Power BI cloud version of it, the online version. So to achieve, to push your report to a cloud version, just click on publish on this home tab. Okay, if you click on publish, it will ask you first to save the report, and then it will ask where you want to publish it. So if you have your complete paid version, you will have different workspaces. If you have a free version of it, if you have taken the trial, you will have only my workspace. You can click on my workspace and then click on select, and then it will publish your report to there. Okay, I will show you how to do it for the my workspace so that it's same for everyone. So if you select this, and it will publish it, and once it is done publishing, it will give you the link of the report here. So you can click on this and you can open it, or else you can go to your browser where, and also when you are publishing it, your Power BI desktop needs to be signed in. Okay, let's click on got it here. So if you see, this is the ID that we are using. Okay, so if you need to sign in first, and then you will be able to publish. Okay, so let's go to app.powerbi.com. So if you go to app.powerbi.com, you will have different reports here, and you can select your my workspace from here, this one. Okay, my workspace have one report, which is this. And when you publish your report, it publishes two things. One is your report and one is your data set. And create, using this data set, you can create reports on this online version also, but it will be very limited. You will not have all the features. Something will be limited. So building reports, always go with the desktop version, and for sharing reports, go with the online version. Okay, so if you click on this, it will open the report here on this, and you can do a full screen, and you can fit to weight, fit actual size, and you can view it on full screen like this. You can scroll it, you can do everything. Okay, I'm going to keep it as fit to page, and this is where the report lies. Okay, and if you want to share it, the sharing option will only be available if you have a paid version. For free version, you cannot share your report through the online version. If you want to share it, you will have to share this PBIX file that is being saved on your local drive. Okay, okay, so now let's hop on to the ending part of our demonstration. Let's go to the presentation. Okay, so there are three versions of Power BI. Power BI Desktop, we saw. Then we have Power BI Pro. Then we have Power BI Premium. Power BI Premium and Pro, they both have paid versions. Each has their own benefits. So Power BI Pro is for a small organization, maybe a mid-level organization. Power BI Premium is for enterprise. It's obviously more costlier than that, than the Power BI Pro. And you don't need to go for Pro or Premium until and unless you want to share your report through the web to a user who does not have a license or something. Okay, so that's only when you need a license. Otherwise, for building reports, you don't need anything, any license, or any, you don't need to pay a single penny. Okay, so demo we have already covered. Let's look at some of the advanced features. So yeah, so in your Power BI, when you are doing an import model, the Power BI, the desktop version, the simple version, has a limit of 1 GB. So you don't think of it like if you have a data set which is of more than 1 GB, it will not be able to load it. That's not the case. Power BI has something called as a Vertipack technology inbuilt to it. So it's a Microsoft technology. It uses it to compress your data. Okay, so any data that you load, once it is loaded into your data model, it's compressed very nicely. So if you have a data which is around maybe 1 TB or 2 TB, it will get reduced to 200 GB or something. So that's how that's the level of compression that's it is doing. You can read more about it. There's a complete blog available for Vertipack, and it's mainly designed. It is mainly originated from Excel. So in Excel also you can analyze your data in Excel. You have pivot tables and all of that, right? You have something called as SSAS, SQL Server Analysis Server. So in that also they use this for this, and this Vertipack technology is mainly used for very fast calculations and compressing your high load of data, and if you mainly for data modeling. Okay. Okay, then if you have the Power BI Premium version, it has a 10 GB limit. If you have Power BI Premium with large models, it has a limit of 400 GB. And if you if you pay more, Power BI Premium Extended Memory, then it has a limit of 4 TB. And this limit is for the data model, not your data set. Okay, so after doing the compression, this is the limitation that we check. Then you can also use power of AI. You can have AI visuals inbuilt into your report, so it's already available. And then you can, so this is an example. So you can have a question Q&A visual in this, like the user can simply ask, show me the average movie duration for 2016. So if you put a question type like this, it will use natural language processing and all of that, and it will give the result based on your data. You don't need to create anything visual on top of it, and the result will be a report, a visual. Sometimes it will be a bar graph, sometimes it will be a line chart. You can do whatever you want. Okay, so basically users will be asking questions, and let's say sometimes the user is asking some question, and Power BI is not able to understand it. So it will give the user an option to mark it as like, okay, this is not what I want from Power BI, and I want the developer to add this meaning to Power BI. Okay, so in that case, you can you can improve the data dictionary of your Power BI report, and from next time, then when the user asks the same question, report will be able to answer the questions. Okay, this is one example. There are a lot of other AI visuals examples as well. So this is just an example, a depiction of what Power BI experience looks like. Power BI works on on-premise data sources. It works on cloud data sources. It works on file, and it can get data from web, Cortana. You can have reports embedded into Excel. You can analyze your data into Excel. Sorry, yeah, you can analyze your data into Excel. You can embed reports into websites. You can do all of that. You can integrate your reports into all the Microsoft services, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Office 365. All of these things are there. You can embed your reports there, and then you can have automated machine learning models inbuilt into your report. That will be there in your cloud version. So for that, I think you need to pay that. And integration, you can integrate Power BI with SharePoint. You can integrate with Power Apps, Teams, Excel, Cortana, anything. Okay, and there is a lot more. This is just a surface. And yeah, so if you have any other questions, you can ask me now.
Yes, so we have a question in the chat. So, like, if you say, could I read it for you?
Yeah, okay. So the question is how this tool can be helpful to cybersecurity professionals or students. Yeah, it will be very helpful. So when you are working with cybersecurity related projects, what you have is a lot of security issues that you want to explain to your client, right? And sometimes the client is not that proficient with the terms that you use in your day-to-day cybersecurity world, right? So you can show that information, whatever you are talking, in form of visuals. What you can do is whatever security issues you found, or whatever topic you are talking about, or whatever data set or whatever server that you are working on, it will generate some form of data in another way, in any format. You can use that data, you can format it, you can model it, you can transform it, and then you can create beautiful reports on top of it, and you can show that report, and you can have alerts built on top of that report. Okay, let's say you want to see you want to let's say website traffic is one example, and you want to see like what kind of IP addresses are trying to reach that particular website, right? So you can get that data information from the web server. Okay, so that web server will always have some logs or something. You can get the data from there, and you can automate that as well. There is a lot of tools available for that. Yeah, even Power BI will be some to some extent. If let's say your server is in Azure, Power BI will be able to directly connect to that. Okay, even if you have an on-premise server, then also Power BI can connect to it by using something called as gateways. So you can read about it. So the end goal is you have your data into your Power BI. Once you have your data into Power BI, you can create reports on top of that. And Power BI has map visuals as well. So you saw that Barcelona report, right? So in that you can show the user like what kind of from where the website is getting requests from. So let's say there is a user which is your website is being viewed only in US, and you want to limit the users for that. So let's say there was a breach and website is now open to China as well, or maybe some other country where you don't want the website to be visible. In that case, you can create alerts. So the moment the website is visible to these particular locations, you can send out emails and all of that. So this is one just a very basic example. There is a lot more that you can do, and there are a lot of companies that have created products that are just reports, and that reports are basically what the end user will use. The backend thing, or like how the security is being done and what kind of alerts that you have enabled, what kind of security issues that you have found, all those things you can do in your developers can handle it, and the developers will generate the data from that security, whatever cyber security things that you have done, and you can build reports on top of that, and you can share that report to the user. So the user will be much happier to see the report and go through whatever he is doing or whatever data that he is generating, instead of just listening to whatever cybersecurity terminologies that the professional is explaining. Did I answer the question correctly? Any like, are you satisfied with the answer, or is there anything else you want? I think it's Abhisar Pandey. Hello.
Yeah, so he mentioned that he got the answer.
Okay, okay, fine. Any other questions?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, I'm Sanjana, and I'm a student and pursuing my degree in bachelor and pursuing my bachelor in computer science. And
Okay.
currently, I'm learning Java, and I just want to know how data analytics tools can help me with my domain.
So you are working, you are a student in computer science and you are working in the data related stuff, right? Data science and all of that, right?
No, I'm learning Java. I just want to know how data analytics tools help me.
Oh, okay. So you are working with Java. Okay. So what kind of development do you do with Java? Are you
Like
developing? Yeah, go on.
desktop applications like
Okay, you build desktop applications, right? So when you build desktop applications, those desktop applications will be viewed by varied forms of users, right? They might use it in their MacBook maybe, or maybe they are using it in their Windows PCs, right? So any desktop application, if you are going with the Microsoft version of it, Microsoft Windows desktop applications, you can embed your reports within that. So let's say you want to show some very good dashboards in your application, right? Let's say it's a CRM that you are building, and CRMs will obviously have some data generating through it, and that particular application, you can obviously use the Java utilities to create your dashboard reports and graphs, and all of that is all obviously there. It's available in like in your desktop applications to do it or achieve it with some packages or some extra libraries. But if you don't want to do that, and your application is generating some data and you are storing it in some database or in some files or in some logs, you can read the data in Power BI, create the report, publish it on the internet, I mean like the Power BI service, and from there you can get the shareable link or embeddable link, and from there you can embed it within your application. So that will save you a lot of time while creating the report, and you just need to focus on creating the application, the application will generate the data automatically, and the data will get stored into database, and your Power BI will fetch the data from your database, and the report will get refreshed whenever you want. So that way you will have a refreshed report. You can schedule your refreshes. You can make it direct queries that will automatically get refreshed whenever there is a change in the data set, and you will have a very nice application.
Thank you, sir. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the session.
Thanks for that. Okay, there's another question, I think. Can you share some resources to learn advanced version of it? I really enjoyed the session. I am trying to do data person to be a data person since last 2 months. As you are a working professional, I'm not sure that it will be possible for you. Okay, I get your question. It's so first thing is I would really recommend to go to the documentation that is there for Microsoft available. And other than that, you can visit consoleflare.com, and I personally teach there in my free time as a professional. And if you are interested in something like that, you can visit consoleflare.com, and in that particular website you have a course for masters in data science. So that is a completely well constructed course, and in that you will learn everything from the basics, how to make sense of the data, how to do the processing, and at the end there is a module for Power BI and live data streaming. That part I will cover. If you're interested in that, you can go through that, or else if you don't want to go through that, you can visit the documentations. You can go through it, YouTube. You will find a lot of content. Any other questions?
Yes, I had one.
Yeah.
So in this one, we separated one single table into two parts, the movies and genres.
Yeah.
So we had one relationship between two of them with the movie ID. So can we have more than one active relationship between two tables?
So within the same table, within the same two tables, you cannot have two active relationships. You can have only one relationship. You can have one relationship which is inactive, but by making use of DAX, you can make them active based on your requirement. But at a time, only one relationship will be active between two tables. But let's say you have three tables or four tables. One table can have multiple relationships with different tables, but within the two tables, the same two tables, you cannot have multiple relationship between multiple columns.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so actually my question was about the similar one, that let's suppose I am having because I actually thought that if I am having two to three tables and one is linked with the other one with some other
Yeah.
metadata, and the other one is linked with some other one.
Mhm.
So like how, like, can we have multiple keys for the same as well or not?
Yeah, that you can have. Let's say, for example, in our said case only, we have movies, we have genres. Then let's say we have two more tables. One is for directors, and one is for cast. Okay, so you can that movies table can have relationship with the cast table, directors table, and genres table at the same time. So that is possible. One table having relationship with multiple tables, that is possible, with multiple
Okay.
columns as well, but not with the same set of two tables. Okay. Any other
Okay.
questions?
Uh, Personally, I'm not having any of them because actually I was also a beginner for this workshop and I was really excited for it.
Okay.
And let's wait for 2 more minutes if our attendees have any more questions. Guys, please drop in. This is your chance. Oh, we have a question for you, I think.
I'm based out from India. Any
Okay,
other questions?
I think
It shouldn't be related to Power BI also. I can try to answer any other questions related to data also. if you have.
Mhm. Okay, I think the question that George asked, like from which country, like it might be related that he wished to take classes, like
Yeah,
or
I
he
got that.
wanted to get into something.
I'm
So
based out
share.
of yeah, from India.
Okay, so will it be possible for you that if there are people who want to attend your sessions or classes like
uh,
out of India, so will
yeah,
that be
that is
possible?
possible. So the website with that I mentioned, right? So in that, so I'm associated with that organization for a long time, and I provide online courses here. So it's a live course. It's not like it will be recorded sessions. I will be coming there live for a week, so that my part is for a week, and there are a lot of other professionals like me who have been working in different industries for a long time. They are experts in that field. So in that course, they have different models. We have Python, we have machine learning, we have artificial intelligence, we have big data. All of that is there. And in the last part, we have live data streaming with Spark and Power BI for reporting, building reports. So we have that also. So for that part, the last part I will be covering, it will be around week or maybe a few more days than that. So if you want to have something like that, you can visit the website. There is a form, you can fill your details, and surely the people will contact you, the sales people, or maybe the trainer maybe. So they will try to contact you for a demo, and if you're interested, you can uh, go through the package and you can get started from there. So that will be a live course. Yeah, so how does your consultant team share knowledge and collaborate with data? Actually, I didn't get the question. So collaborate as in like, let's say we are working on the same report or same data. That's what you are trying to understand. Is that what you are asking? Like, let's say we are working on a, okay, yeah, I am working as a consultant, right? Can you elaborate your question a little bit? Like what collaboration are you talking about? Yeah, so that's what I mean. Yeah. So let's say we have a same similar data set. So in a particular team where you in a data project, we have different activities associated for a particular report, for a particular project, right? First thing is we make sure that we have the data correctly loaded into our data warehouse. So that's something that we do, and it's called data warehousing. Okay, we have data coming from different sources. It's not just an Excel file. The demonstration was very basic, like I said. So you will have data coming from big data streams. You will have data coming from websites. You will have coming data from databases, data warehouses, data lakes, and sometimes SharePoint, and sometimes the list goes on. So what you need to do is first you need to store the data in house, like in your whatever the project requirement is. Based on that, sometimes we directly load into report, but most of the best industry standard is we create a data warehouse. We load the data from different data sources into one location, or on a one source or destination. And on top of that, we do processing. And that processing, sometimes if it's very simple basic, we can do it within Power BI. Or sometimes, most of the cases when we are working on the large enterprise projects, what we do is we process our data using a lot of tools. So if we are working on big data, the best available tool is Databricks. So we can do processing there. We can use multiple languages. We can use R, we can use Scala, we can use Java, we can use Python as well, and we can use SQL as well. And sometimes we do the processing within the SQL databases using SQL stored procedures. Sometimes we make use of Apache Flow. Like the list goes on. So the idea is to process the data. Okay, so whatever cleaning you want to do, whatever uh, segregation you want to do on the top of the data, if you want to merge two tables, if you have different tables, let's say one of the data is coming as semi-structured data and some data is structured. So let's say one is JSON and one is your database. So how do you make sense of those two? So first approach will be to convert that semi-structured JSON into a relational model where we have the data in rows and columns. then we can have a column. We will format it. We will give proper names to the tables. We will create views on top of it. We will create format the column names. We'll remove the outliers in the data. We will format it. We will give proper IDs. We will create columns so that we can create a relationship on the model. Those kind of things, those processing we will do. We will remove the data that is not required. And once we have done with the processing, we will have finally some tables created, right? Those tables we will again dump it into some other data source, maybe a database, maybe a data model. Okay, and from that, on top of that, we will create a report. So I've given you complete BI architecture. So all these things is not done by a single person. Okay, data warehousing will have multiple people working on the data warehousing, and multiple people will be doing the different things. Some people will be doing the mapping, some people will be actually writing the scripts to do the transformation, some people will be doing the loading of data from source into data warehouse. And then let's say we have the reporting team, right? So in the reporting team, some people will be building the data model. Some people who are really good at data modeling and data transformation, they will do the data modeling and transformation. And then we have the UI UX team, which will give you a proper approved and proper very neatly cleaned cleanly designed wireframes for your report. And the reporting people who are building the report, they will just follow the UI UX design and create the reports based on that UI UX requirement. So the reporting team is not that much big based on the requirement. Let's say if you have only one report, probably 2 or 3 people can handle it. Sometimes one person can also handle it. And let's say you have multiple reports being created, so multiple people will be creating multiple reports, and based on the requirement they will be doing it. And once the report has been created, it will be published into the cloud version. So in that cloud version, multiple people can work together. So that's how we can work in a single project with multiple resources in the same team. Any other questions?
So we have an amazing feedback for you.
Yeah, thanks for that.
So if you are not having any more questions, I hope we shall end the session, because I think it's quite late in India as well for a lot of people, and might be our speaker is also getting late for its dinner.
Yeah.
So I would like to express my gratitude to all the speakers, like Mr. Mrinmai Sir and Nihal Sir as well, who joined us today. So thank you everyone. Thank you to all the attendees who joined us for this conference and giving their contributing to this GirlScript Ireland International Conference and making it a great success. Thank you and have a nice day. Good night. See ya.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.